but I'd like to quickly introduce Bill Barber from Orange Coast College, Amanda Gargano from Cypress College, Lisa Enlo from Saddleback College, and Tiffany Herman from Santa Ana College. And I'd like to give them each just a short amount of time to just tell us a little bit about who they are, what they do, and general overview of their college program. And then we'll get into this in a little bit. So let's start off with Amanda. You're on the left side of my screen. You're right there.
All right, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Amanda Gargano. I'm a full-time faculty member in the Hotel, Restaurant, and Culinary Arts program at Cypress College. A really quick background of our program: we have 5 full-time faculty members. Each of us has our own area of specialty. We offer 4 different associate's degrees to our students: culinary arts, baking and pastry arts, food and beverage management, and hospitality management. One of the main focuses of our program, or I guess one of the very popular classes in our program, we teach nutrition courses and tons of them. We recently have started working on the creation of a food science program as well, which is something that's new and exciting to our program. And we're excited to be here today. I'm sure you have a ton of questions about how we've been teaching culinary arts virtually during a pandemic. So I'm happy to be here and kind of share our experiences with you today.
Okay, well, you even jumped ahead and answered part of our other questions, but that's, you know what, I'd rather have that happen than go rote by rote. So anyway, let's see, I've got Lisa Enlo from Saddleback College next up on my screen.
Hi there, thank you so much for having me. My name is Lisa Enlo, and I am the department chair for the Saddleback College Culinary Arts, Hospitality, and Travel and Tourism program. We are a smaller program. We have 2 full-time faculty, still working on getting a few more here. We'll see how that goes. And 4 stackable certificates and degrees that I can give you some more information on as we move forward into our conversation.
Great, thank you for that, Lisa. Now next, Bill Barber from Orange Coast College.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bill Barber. I am the program coordinator of Culinary Arts, and we have a couple of we have about 4 certificates in baking and pastry, and as well as culinary arts and associate in science degrees. We're accredited by the American Culinary Federation to teach classes in the advanced certificate sections, and students can earn a certified culinarian when they graduate. We also have other programs in hospitalities, including food service management, as well as nutrition, hotel, etc.
Great, great. Thank you for that. And then Tiffany from Santa Ana College, please tell us about your new program. Are you unmute yourself though, please?
Hi, sorry, I was actually it disconnected and I connected back. So hello, everyone.
Just in time.
Just in time. I am Tiffany Herman. I'm a culinary instructor at Santa Ana College. We are a newer program and smaller program. We currently offer 2 culinary arts certificates, 2 hospitality certificates, and soon a baking and pastry certificate. We started about 2 years ago, so fairly new and in the midst of the pandemic. But we're very excited to be here, and we'll talk more about our programs as this meeting goes on. Thank you.
Okay, I just wanted to point out a couple of things really quick, because we have, we're very fortunate to have 4 programs that are 4 different programs. And as we go through this conversation, we'll find out, what makes your program unique. All of your programs are powerful. You're serving students, you're doing great work. But I mean, for instance, what's something interesting that's going on your campus right now, not necessarily in light of the pandemic, but just something you're excited about as we approach fall. I would say, Bill, to tip it off for you, my office is right next door to, I actually have overlooked the new building that's coming, that's already ready to go, and it's been waiting to open through the pandemic. So I know that's an exciting thing going on at Orange Coast College. For Tiffany, we have provided some access to supplemental education through the pandemic with the Ruby Online supplemental curriculum through our Bay Area partner. And I know that you took advantage of that. So I'd like to hear about that at some point through today. And then Lisa, I know the last time we talked, and also Bill, when we spoke at the beginning of the pandemic, you were both so concerned, and I'm sure everybody else was, about access, student access. And the curriculum piece actually came second at that point, because it was just hanging on to your students and making sure they had their basic needs met. And then with Amanda, I know at Cypress, they did a really good job of doing ingredients kits for their students. And I know that Bill did. I'm sure, maybe Tiffany and Lisa did as well. But also the fact that you at Cypress are so close to that Anaheim tourism corridor. That's an essential place to be as we move through the pandemic. So that's not a question, that's just a general framing. And what we'll do now is we'll just move on just to the nuts and bolts of dual enrollment. If you could just go through maybe the status of some dual enrollment at your college in your programs, and kind of keep an eye on, or with a mind to, if they're where you want them to be and you're at capacity, that's great. If you're willing to expand those opportunities, our K-12 people would love to hear about that. And if you could just start it off, Tiffany, we'll snake back. Let me know how things are going with dual enrollment at Santa Ana and in your local district.
Definitely. We are very excited because even though we are a small, newer program, we've been very active during this pandemic to collaborate with our local high schools and offer dual enrollment. Currently, we're offering dual enrollment through Santa Ana Unified School District, Garden Grove, and OSHA. So having that said, we are offering and we're growing. So we're going to be expanding that dual enrollment throughout our local high schools.
Great. And now if some of our partners are interested in talking to you or talking to someone at Santa Ana, is there a particular person they should reach out to?
Definitely. They could reach out to me or my department chair, Sarah Mateo, and I'll be putting the emails right in the chat box. So
wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you for that. Now, how about you, Lisa? Why don't you tell us a little bit about Saddleback and dual enrollment?
So we have two dual enrollment. Sorry about that. And our first one we have been running at Silverado High School, which is a continuation high school. That's been ongoing for about the last 3 years. We've had great success there, and I feel like that is just such the perfect place for our program to be, because our industry really will support these students that are struggling and not traditional students going the traditional route. So I feel like it's very valuable and we're making a difference in these students' lives. I have a couple of success stories from our continuation school that have come into our program, and it's just amazing to see the difference that this makes. Additionally, we are beginning a dual enrollment this coming fall with Dana Hills High School. So that one's not really, I don't have any feedback yet on that because it's brand new. So we'll see where that goes. But I'm absolutely open to partnering with anybody who would be interested. You can send an email to me, or Carrie Irwin is in charge of helping facilitate this, so I can connect you with her as well.
Okay, at some point, if you just want to shoot their emails into the chat, that'd be great, Lisa.
Sure.
And then let's go with you, Bill. Tell us about OCC and the dual enrollment possibilities and what's happening there now.
So right now we're not participating in any dual enrollments in our program per se, but we're certainly open to those.
Do you know if perhaps on the hospitality side there might be anything going on, Bill?
I don't think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
Just curious. Thanks. And then also now, Amanda at Cypress, what have we going on in dual enrollment and articulation there?
So dual enrollment is something that we have been doing for, I think, about 2 years at least at this point. I am the faculty member that kind of teaches all of the dual enrollment classes for the most part. And so it's been really great to see it grow over the past couple of years. Initially, when I started teaching dual enrollment, we only offered a dual enrollment nutrition class. in the beginning, it was formatted so that I would physically go to the high school and teach the high school students at their school. And at the time, I had a very small handful of students. I think there were 7 students that were participating in dual enrollment. Since then, we altered the format a bit. We had the high school students come to campus and be in a class with our Cypress students. And so that was one way we did it. Again, still speaking of nutrition. Around that same time, we expanded the dual enrollment to offer hands-on lab classes to the high school students as well, which were integrated with the Cypress students. So I taught a culinary fundamentals dual enrollment course. We also offered a baking fundamentals dual enrollment course. And then pre-pandemic, we had started some conversation about potentially offering the dual enrollment nutrition course as an online course. And this was actually pre-pandemic that these conversations were taking place. Good thing, because then the pandemic hit, and that's how I've been teaching the dual enrollment nutrition class since. And I got to tell you, I taught a dual enrollment nutrition class this semester and last semester. Class was full with a wait list. So it's really gaining in popularity, and it's such a great experience for myself and for the students.
Well, that's great. That sounds excellent. It's, you know, I know not like you're busy enough with your own students on campus, but these K-12 students are the students of the present and the future as well. So there you go. Now, the next part of our conversation, I know we talk about this probably every time we get together, but we talk about it because every time I talk to industry, that's the first thing they're talking about too. And I know the term soft skills has been overused, but you know, we're kind of reapproaching it. Some people are calling them success skills. Some people are calling them employability skills. But I think before I get to the actual broader picture of the soft skill employability skills, let's drill down first in the culinary realm and try to identify a few performance skills. Skills like where do you want your students to be in terms of competency when they're entering your program? Now, you know, does that mean that your intro to culinary arts, do you expect those students to have some experience maybe working in the workforce or having some sort of exposure to, you know, YouTube videos or something where they have some basic skills? And if you wouldn't mind expanding on that just a little bit, let's start with the performance skills, and then we'll go back around to the actual soft employability skills, okay? Bill, you're nodding. I'm grabbing you first. So tell me about the performance skills and your expectations or your, you know, your desire.
Well, I didn't mean to nod, but yeah, no. So we don't necessarily have an expectation as to any skills that students would come in with. We pretty much start at the beginning because we don't have any kind of a screening. I don't think any of our community colleges screen people out. It's always great if students have a foundational knowledge of how to use a knife or which end of the peeler to hold when you're going to peel something. That's actually a thing that happened once in my class. But yeah, I mean, we start at the beginning and we go from there. So
that's a good answer. That works. What about you, Tiffany? Are there any skills that you would like to see? I mean, these are obviously there's no requirements because they're intro courses, but what do you think just from a instructor standpoint?
Yeah, just to echo what Bill was saying, I mean, we're not expecting any skills. Some students might have some skills, some students might have no experience, and that's why we start with those intro classes. I guess some performance skills that would help. Basic math skills would be great. Having students not being afraid of the fractions and being able to have just those basic math skills, kind of fine tune them. So when we go into our recipe costing or scaling a recipe down or anything like that, that would be beneficial. If they come with any skills like basic knife skills, it's just an add-on, and then we would be going over. So it would be just something that they could expand their knowledge in. But I think just what I could add to what Bill said was probably just math skills.
You know, it's interesting, Tiffany, that you say that, because last year I was actually at the Cypress Advisory Board back when we were all gathering in person, and I had the good fortune of sitting next to the head of bakery, the head chef for baking at Disney, and I picked his brain a little bit, and I asked him. I said, you know, in my position, I can help inform what our students are learning for the purposes of their workforce, you know, needs, and also to meet those needs. And he said, math skills, math skills, math skills. He said that he has so many new employees coming in, and this isn't an indictment on community college at all. This is employees from all walks of life. And some of them can't even do a simple calculation for a recipe. And it's very frustrating for him. I mean, one would hope that maybe they're screening for that, right? But I wanted to reiterate what you had said, just from an industry standpoint as well. That, you know, there's a lot of things they can teach students, but that fine, you know, that focus on basic math skills can't be undervalued.
No, definitely. And if I could add to that, formerly I was a culinary instructor at Valley High School, and something we did was that cross-curricular, where the math teachers met with the culinary instructors, and we would create lesson plans that would include the culinary portion into their math classes. And now the students could see the both points connecting. So it does make sense. Sometimes students are like, why am I learning this? I'm never going to use math. And then all of a sudden they go into culinary and they're like, we are using math all the time. So even in the science classes, if the students are interested in culinary and they're signing up for this classes in the high school level, finding a way where you could create some assignments that have that cross-curricular component to them.
That's a wonderful idea, a wonderful model, because I know that so many students, you know, once they meet a roadblock in math, it's really hard to get past that. I mean, I'm saying that as a parent myself. It's hard to build confidence in math if somebody doesn't feel that that's their thing. So to integrate it into it on a multidisciplinary level is a wonderful model. How about you, Amanda? Do you have any insight into this, of what kind of performance skills you would like to see from students?
Well, I definitely agree with Tiffany about the importance of math. I also teach cost control, and so having to kind of reteach the basics in a more advanced math class for some can just, you know, it can be a little much. So I think making sure students come in with skills. The other thing that stood out to me, Sheila, when you asked the question, but I guess my response isn't quite performance-based, is just for students to have an awareness of safety. Certainly it's something that we teach and reteach and teach again, but I'm thinking kind of those first lab classes, the first times that we have students in the kitchen, and sometimes they just don't realize the amount of space that they take up, or how they handle the knife, and it can be a little cringy. So I think having students introduced to the concept of safety and personal safety, the safety of others, would be useful.
Oh, that's great. That's a good one. And then now, Lisa, what else? Or did I already get you? Sorry.
No, but we've done a good job of covering everything, I think. I agree 100%. Math, absolutely. Safety, absolutely. I might add to that time management. When we're working,
and that's perfect, because that leads into our next question. So let's have you start off with that and tell us a little bit more about those employability skills that are essential for students to develop. And this is actually the question that someone posed, was important to develop before taking college level courses. So you don't have to address the industry needed ones. I think we want to see what do they need to have within them, or to be expounded upon for college success.
Well, in our industry, I think communication and teamwork are at the top of the list, because you cannot do this alone. I know that I do have a lot of students that come in and just kind of want to work by themselves, and that's not an industry standard. It might be a classroom standard for a little bit, only because of the pandemic and the situation we're in, if we have to enforce social distancing in our classrooms into the fall semester, but I'm hoping that's a short-lived thing. But teamwork is huge. and really important. Communication is also another big one. And then I would say just having that grit, that perseverance, that don't give up attitude is important, as well as critical thinking. So when something doesn't go the way that I often tell my students that you learn more from your mistakes than you do from your successes, and to not be afraid of that, to embrace it and learn from that experience, and come out the other end even better. So
yeah, I think you covered that very well. And so I would just add or ask of our other three panelists if there's anything that that maybe Lisa didn't cover that you would highlight for the group. And let's start with Amanda here.
The thing that comes to mind immediately is accountability. I think that especially in this industry, you have to be prepared to own up to your mistakes, be responsible. I think it all comes into play. And, our job as career educators is to really make sure the students who graduate from our programs can swing it in the real world. And so accountability, I think, needs to be taught at all levels of education, but certainly in our programs, it's something that we really stress. It's, if there's a deadline, this is the deadline.
Yeah.
And, we all come from industry and know if the restaurant opens at noon, the restaurant's going to open at noon, whether you're there or not, or whatever,
exactly.
For sure. And so I think just really trying to make sure students understand the importance of being accountable is crucial.
Okay, that's great. And then how about you, Bill? Would you add anything to this part of the conversation?
Well, just those things that make the person employable, a good employee, and that would be showing up on time, being reliable and consistent with your attendance. And then, I'm sure we all do this, but we stress the uniform pretty highly, the uniform, so everybody looks the same, and they just get used to that kind of mindset when in the kitchen.
Great. And then finally, with you, Tiffany, is there anything additionally that you feel would be something that the students should be able to handle, some skills they might have from a success standpoint for college?
Yes, I mean, yes to everything that has been said. It's like check mark to everything. Something that I want to add that I've been seeing, something new is not new, but it's been coming to my attention even more from students, how to handle stress. Our industry
and particularly in these times as well.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes. I have guest speakers in my class and I have students submitting questions, and this question has come up in every guest speaker session multiple times. How do I handle stress? How do I prioritize, and how do I balance school life, work, and personal life? And it's a life skill. It's a soft skill, and it's in our industry, it's high stress. We are meeting deadlines. We're in the kitchen, and I think teaching the students also self-care. Sometimes we're in the kitchen for 8-9 hours and we haven't even used the restroom, right? So this is coming up even more with the students. So just wanted to add that one to the list.
That's really important, especially now of all times. And I'm going off the script here for a second because I think it's pretty important to address this. Obviously, self-care informs your, having more resources to handle stress. So, that is something that's going to be very apparent, especially in the next few months, re-emerging in next years in this industry. But if you're looking at this industry, I mean, it's obviously the most decimated across the board. How do you keep your students, and what would you suggest to the K-12 faculty for students that are taking these courses, that are interested in working in this field, and all you hear about is, or not hear about, you walk by the street and see the closures, you read about it, you hear about it, it's top of mind. So do you have any strategies or any advice for the K-12 faculty to how to encourage their students to stay with it? And how do you encourage your own students to stay with it? How about Bill, do you have any answers on that one?
Yeah, I think looping them into graduate success stories is a great way, and that like I have a couple of graduates that were heavily into catering, for example, And during the pandemic, they did this pivot to, individual meals and custom meal plans for their clients in their homes and delivery and all of that. And that has really taken off. And she just got a big write-up in the Orange County Register this week. So I think that that's one way, is to say that, hey, our graduates are out there, they're doing it, and they're making it despite the difficult times. And then the last thing I would say would be that there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And over the past month or so, I've really seen it. And that I'm just getting, and I'm sure you all are too, tons and tons and tons of requests from employers right now for people to come work. So I share those with my particular, student. I have them on, and graduates on a email list for job notices. And I think that's helping them see oh my gosh, yeah, this has been horrible. And they're starting to open up again.
Yeah, no, that's really important to know. And as a matter of fact, Brian Dozier sent me an email last week. One of the people on the industry panel has some job openings, and so I blasted it out to most of you guys. I hope you got it. But that's where I can help out. I can help out with helping disseminate that information to our colleges. Maybe if we think about some sort of, I've always wanted to do some sort of regional approach to that, where there's a central kind of clearinghouse almost, so we can get that information out to our students. So that's something I could be working on for the fall, hopefully. And then I would just, instead of asking each of you that question, I would just counter with, in addition to what Bill said. I mean, I know that a lot of the information I get about recovery statistics and how many years out it's supposed to really take, I counter that sometimes, because in Orange County, we have a unique situation in that our economy, obviously tourism and hospitality is a huge part of our economy, and retail even factors into that in numbers. In California, we have so many great natural resources. We have, and tourism and hospitality, culinary is such a giant piece of the California economy. But in our local county, 92% of the profits that were generated by hospitality related careers and fields come from domestic travelers, and only 8% come from international travelers. So knowing that travel is rebounding more quickly for domestic travelers, I'm a little more hopeful that our recovery will be on a faster pace in Orange County. And that's just anecdotal from being in a lot of meetings, but I'm hopeful of that. And so I would use that to encourage your students. Not that you're going to worry about too many statistics, but if you can help them focus on, this is a powerful economic engine in our county, and there will be jobs. So, just sticking with it, there will be jobs. And like Bill said, there are jobs. So if anyone else has anything to add on that, if you don't, we'll move on to tell us a little bit in more detail about some of your certificates and degrees, and quite a few of them will be similar. We know that. So maybe this is an opportunity to tell us about maybe one that you're also pretty excited about, one that's maybe a little bit different from what everybody else is doing. And Amanda, you already mentioned that about the nutrition one. You also mentioned that you're exploring developing a food science one, which I think is pretty cool. I know that at OCC they've had a culinology degree for quite a while. It'd be interesting to hear about the status of that too. So let's start off with Lisa. I'm aware of your farm to fork or farm to table certificate, which is in connection with the horticulture department, which I hope doesn't steal your thunder, but I'd be interested to hear about what the status of that is.
Yeah, so we're not approved on our farm to table yet. It's in the process. These things take time. But yeah, we're very excited. We have a sustainable cuisine class, and we've partnered with horticulture to add urban farming to that and create a farm to table certificate. So we are excited about that. We have 4 approved certificates at the moment, and they are all stackable. So they begin at like, I think it's 18 units and go all the way up to, I think it's 37, yeah, 37 units. We also, in addition to that, we have a new non-credit certificate through adult education where students who just sort of want to get their feet wet or maybe just want to get a job, it's a 4-class certificate that's non-credit, so it's free for our students. And it can get them into the workplace or lead them into our 4-credit program.
Great, that sounds good. Thank you. And then how about Tiffany? Can you tell us about all the new happenings at Santa Ana as you're building your program out?
Yes, I mean, a lot of the certificates might be similar to other colleges, like our culinary arts certificates. Something exciting is we're working closely with the business department at Santa Ana College, and it hasn't been approved yet, but we're creating a culinary arts business foundation certificate, and this will be for students to start their own small business. So that management side with the culinary side, which is really exciting, and it's going to be part of our stackable certificates. And we, like Lisa said, we're also working with adult education. We have a line cook certificate, and that would be for really students that want to just go straight to the workforce and non-credit. So working closely with the non-credit side with the high school, exciting. We're working really closely with OSHA for dual enrollment, and our goal is that their high school students graduate with their high school diploma, but they would graduate as well with the Santa Ana College Culinary Arts certificate as they complete their high school. So exciting
Great.
things,
Yeah,
new
no,
things.
that's really, really cool. Bill, tell us about Orange Coast College and some of the specializations and degrees.
Okay, so students can earn a certificate in culinary arts at the basic level in about 2 semesters, or the advanced level in 4 semesters, and then an associate in science on top of that by completing the general ed requirements for the associate in science degree. And they can do the same thing in baking and pastry. If they graduate with their advanced baking and pastry certificate or their advanced culinary certificate and also optional associate's degree, they could earn their certified culinarian through the American Culinary Federation when they graduate. So they don't have to take any tests or practical cooking tests or anything like that. That would be, I know I might be jumping to one of the other questions, but
no, actually, I appreciate that you led into that, because I was going to tail back around to that. So that's much more efficient. So thank you for mentioning that.
So I guess that would be one thing as a graduate from the advanced program from either one of the advanced programs in a school that is accredited by the American Culinary Federation. The American Culinary Federation will award that certification. The other thing that our chef Alexandra Yates has in the works, and it's still in the approval process in the food service management areas, would be the sustainability certificate. And I think it was 2 years ago we had the meeting in person, and she was talking about that. But if you wanted more information about that, I could certainly connect you with her for more detail.
Do you have any idea where that's at in the time frame of approvals?
I think that hopefully everything got way slowed down.
Yeah, it's obviously right.
COVID, but I think it's still like slated for 2022.
Okay, yeah, that's great. Thank you for that. And then finally, Amanda, if you wouldn't mind sharing with us some information about Cypress' offerings.
Sure. In addition to the 4 degrees that I mentioned in my intro, we do have that food science certificate that is currently going through the approval process. So we're waiting for that. We're looking at a fall 2022 start if all goes as it should. But in addition to that, we have 2 other degrees that I think are fairly new to the program, and I don't know if we shared last time. We have an associate's degree for transfer, or ADT, in nutrition and dietetics, and then also another one in hospitality management. And so essentially what that does is the student who earns the ADT in hospitality management or nutrition is able to pretty seamlessly transfer to one of the four-year universities. And so it's really common for our students to go on and transfer to either Cal Poly Pomona, Cal State Long Beach, et cetera. And so this particular degree kind of expedites that process for them.
Amanda, thank you for mentioning that. I had the good fortune of working on that project with the former statewide director, and we brought together faculty from the CSUs and the CCCs. So for our K-12 partners on here, it's important to know that, you know, we're building this pathway, and for it to be the 3-tier pathway is just ideal. So when I hear about colleges that are offering the associates for transfer, it's exciting. Thank you. And then I think that we covered some of the rest of the questions. I'm just going to ask two final questions real quick here. And someone had asked, one of the previous educators asked, what advice you would have for students who are interested in college but aren't sure where to start? I mean, we do talk about pathways, and we do try to determine what students' interests are pretty early now with the guided pathways. But there's plenty of students that haven't found their passion yet, but are still seeking out what they want to do. Do you have any general advice for those students? And then we'll circle back to my last question after that. Tiffany?
I would encourage students to take dual enrollment classes to have a feel of a college course, but also maybe explore different career opportunities. And I know Lisa would probably mention this. There's this resource called Talent Ed website that students could go. It's an interactive map. It's going to be showing students different career clusters, what colleges offer certificates to this career clusters. It also shows them job opportunities, wages. It has all this amazing information that I would love all high school students and college students to go through, because it would really give them a little taste of maybe what they want to do. And sometimes students think of culinary arts and they only think of being a chef, or that's the only job that's available. And there's so many more that exposing to the students to them would be in great benefit for their future. So those would be the two resources or advices that I would give the high school students.
Well, thank you very much. Talent Ed is doing great work. Stephanie Figger at the Coast District has a nice grant that's helping with that project, and she's just wonderful at what she does. They've started these little, and I think, Lisa, you're familiar with this because you were featured on one of their little business, their highlight cards, I think. I don't know what they call them, but we'll get that email. Well, I mean, we'll get that website into the chat for you guys, I promise, as soon as I'm done here. And then, Lisa, do you have any additional advice for a student that maybe isn't quite sure what they want to pursue?
Well, I have to piggyback on Tiffany. I'm just so much enjoying the Talent Ed. I think it's a wonderful platform that really exposes students to so many different opportunities and gives them a very clear understanding of the skills that are necessary, and and where to go with them and how much money to make and all of that. In addition to that, I think the non-credit is a really great way for students to go. Non-committal, you don't have, it's not a huge expense. You don't have to buy a uniform and all of that, and it does open the door to jobs. And so I would highly recommend enrolling in a non-credit class, and then just allowing students when they come into our college to kind of pick and choose different things, find their purpose and find their passion. That's so important to them completing. And if they don't have that, I think it's going to be really difficult, especially in the environment that we are in right now, to move forward. So I encourage students to kind of play around, take a few different classes and see, what you might think, instead of getting yourself into one pathway and staying the course. I feel like community college really does need to allow students to experiment with their education.
Yeah, that's a good idea to explore, right? We're all still exploring, aren't we?
Yes.
And then Bill or Amanda, if either of you have any additional suggestions please let us know.
Thank you, Bill. I go ahead and piggyback on what Lisa and Tiffany were saying. I think to take it one step further, something that I like to do is if we have a student who maybe doesn't really know what they want to do, I like to invite them into my class. I think that sometimes reading about different majors and career opportunities is great for background, but actually inviting the student to come in and shadow or sit in on a class or help out in the restaurant in some capacity can be eye-opening, because sometimes what will happen is you'll have a student who doesn't think that they're interested in food, but then they become interested once they're actually involved. Sometimes the opposite of that is true as well. Sometimes you'll have students who grew up watching Food Network and they think that's what the industry is like, but then they get into our class and they go, oh no, this is not for me. And that's okay. But I think that they need to experience it for them to realize that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Bill, you good there, or do you have anything else to add for us?
Well, I totally agree with Amanda in that both of those scenarios, but also one of the things that we recommend to students that are already kind of doing it is to get out there and get a job, at least part-time, or if that's not possible, to volunteer, maybe in a local food bank or at a shelter, and maybe help a little bit with food preparation in that capacity. It's kind of low pressure. There's not, the commitment of having a job. Maybe you could do it just one day a week and see if that's more of a, can ignite the passion, or at least find out more about what it's all about.
That's a great suggestion. And we are in Orange County, we've got some wonderful resources in terms of food banks that are doing great work. Waste Not OC, Breakfast Kitchen, just the two that come to mind immediately for me. The other thing is, as we wind this down, we do have one question that has come up from Gail Karras at North Orange County. She has a question for you, Lisa, about the farm to table. Is there a certificate in that yet, or it's in progress?
It's in progress. We don't
Okay.
have it approved yet.
Okay.
I did just send the link that links to all of our certificates to Gail, and I can share it with everybody as well.
Okay, great. Thank you for doing that. And then, I think what we'll do is, we'll end on an aspirational wish list of sorts. And as we plow through, the pandemic, and it impacted your programs, your students so significantly. But I think in some ways, when we are dealt with adversity, which Tiffany was saying about building resilience, it kind of gives us an opportunity to recalibrate. It gives us an opportunity to think about, maybe the way we're doing things, we can improve. Maybe there's some innovation here. And of course, overnight, when you had to put all your classes online, it's hard to convert culinary classes, particularly. That's pretty hard to think of in that time, in that moment. But now that you've had time to reflect and you're approaching a new semester in the fall, have you learned, is there something that you've learned that you're actually going to take with you when things reemerge into more normal times, more normal practice? And let's have Lisa start off on that one. I see you nodding. Whoever nods is going to get called on first.
Oh, I should be more careful. So I feel like we have really strengthened our online distance education because we had no choice. And it was not my thing. Like, I just didn't understand how in the world I was going to teach culinary arts online. And I had to embrace it. I was forced into it. And I think that it will definitely strengthen our program moving forward. And we're going to hold on to that aspect. Another thing that we did is we have a streaming camera system that was installed in our kitchen just by happen chance. The install was right as the pandemic hit. And so that allowed us to live stream actual cooking to our students. And we've grown through that process quite a bit. We started out where I would live stream for an hour and a half, cooking like a maniac, trying to make sure that I had everything kind of going, but try to get the lecture in. And now we have evolved, thank God, into actually taping these videos and then editing them. And so now I am back at my desk, but I show the video and it just gives a little bit, it's a little bit easier for, Q&A. And I think it's been a really good thing. So moving into the fall semester, all of our lecture and demonstration will be online.
Oh, cool.
I'm not sure if we will continue that into the spring yet, because I think by spring we should be back all in, but this is something that I think we might continue to do moving forward, because it's working really well.
That's good to know. Good to know. And now, Bill, is there something that you learned through the pandemic madness that you think you'll employ as you move forward?
Well, I know some things I'm not going to do.
Okay, well, that's also good,
I work with a headset, live streaming the lab classes, and I'm constantly narrating what I'm doing to the students that live cook in their kitchens at home via Zoom, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm always talking to myself. I find myself doing that, walking out to the car. I'm okay. I'm packing up all my stuff now. I'm going to be heading out, and so hopefully I'm going to stop doing that. But yeah, just to kind of like echo what everyone else, what Lisa was saying, in that we've gotten a lot more sophisticated in our ability to conduct live demos and tape those demos and then post those demos and just work with all that that media, as was maybe I know Sheila mentioned it, but what we're really excited for in the fall is a return to campus for our lab classes. And we have a brand new building that's been sitting here. I've been broadcasting from the kitchens here all year long, and it's a 3-story building. We've got 5 or 6 brand new kitchen spaces, and we just can't wait to have students back in our kitchens live. We still plan on having most of our lectures, online, but that's our big push for the fall, and hopefully we can incorporate some of this technology into our future offerings.
Great, thank you for that. Yes, we're happy to be back on campus. Although the building, I must say, it took away a little bit of my view, but it's a beautiful building, so that's okay. It's much better for your program than it is for my view. Amanda, could you please share with us something that you've learned and that you may carry with you through this?
I think what I'm about to share may seem kind of silly, but I think pre-pandemic in many of our lab classes, the structure that we had was oftentimes small group work. And that was due to a variety of reasons, encouraging students to work together, learning how to work as a member of a team, sometimes larger class sizes, whatever the situation was. But in pivoting and offering labs virtually, students who previously had worked in a small group now were tasked with working 100% individually on their own. And I got to tell you, it was really very cool to see. I had some of the same students semester after semester, and I knew to a certain extent what they could do. They certainly still worked individually at times in the lab, but something about them doing every part of every recipe 100% on their own was great. It was great. It was eye-opening. And so moving forward for the fall, that's actually something that we are going to implement in many of our lab classes, is sort of a transition to a little bit less of group work and a little bit more of individual work. So that was
good. No, that's
unexpected.
That's not something small at all. I think that's a really good point. And especially if it revealed itself, that's awesome. And then finally, we'll have Tiffany answer that question for us, if you remember the question. Or
yes.
Shall I rephrase it?
No,
Okay.
you're fine, Sheila. Thank you. Amanda, I'm so glad you brought that up, because I had a survey done with students, and that was the silver lining. The students said, yeah, we don't necessarily love cooking in front of our screen, but the silver lining was we got to learn a lot more about ourselves going through the whole process by ourselves. I mean, it was eye-opening, not just for us as their instructors, but for the students as well. So that was a silver lining. I think we at Santa Ana College, just like Lisa Bill and Amanda said, we are leaving a component of online in our programs, being our lecture or maybe some demos, and then having the hands-on being on campus, at least for the fall. And then we'll see how that evolves. Something that I'm really looking forward to is seeing our students, not through a screen, but actually face-to-face. We've pivoted, we've become stronger, and something that we learn is that change is not necessarily bad. And sometimes we're stronger than what we think we are. And kudos to all the instructors that out of the bloom from one day to another, it's like, oh, all of your classes are online. And nobody thought culinary was going to be able to do this. But guess what? We did it, everyone. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. And it's just exciting to see also how we all came together, right? And helped each other and learned from each other. So I wanted to end on that note.
Well, that's a perfect way to end it. I appreciate that insight. I appreciate how well you guys do all work together and share information how cooperative our county is. I'm thrilled about that, and it makes my job easier. The last thing, as we tie up here, I just want to thank you for your time. I wanted to just put a word out to our K-12 representatives that are on the call. I hope that you pulled some information that was helpful to you. I hope this helps you consider, that pathway for your students to the community colleges and all the wonderful resources that are available to them. And then maybe encourages or maybe it initiates a little bit more dual enrollment and articulation activity between all of our entities. And I just want to thank you all for your time. Appreciate it.